We have the NFL offseason grades to get to you. So we have 8 NFL teams. We're going to go through how they did in the offseason free agency. Did we like the signings? Did they lose too many pieces? Here we go.
Let's go ahead and start with the Atlanta Falcons. So I would argue that they had a very good offseason and that it's an A-. I don't think it's an A+, because while Kirk Cousins is a very solid NFL quarterback, let's not act like he went out and, acquired a top 5, 10, 5 to 7 quarterback. I'd put Kirk anywhere between 9 and 14 in the league probably. He's a good B+ quarterback. So I would say that move is a really good upgrade. You go out and you get Darnell Mooney. You trade Desmond Ridder, who was clearly awful, for Rondale Moore, who's a solid 3 to 4 receiver. So I think they made a lot of solid, nothing too flashy besides the Kirk move. Just a lot of solid moves to bolster the team. They're going to be a really good offense. And here's another thing you have to factor in, is that the division's bad. Right? Like, is this enough to win that division? I think absolutely it is.
I think could be. I also think it hinges solely on Kirk. Like you said, he's a 9 to a 13 in the league quarterback. Well, that's a 9 on his best year. Like, he's not a Super Bowl guy.
No, yeah, but he's really good.
He's really good.
Yeah, if Kirk was amazing, this would be an A+.
So
he's really good, so it's an A-.
To you, is this kind of a almost like we'll pass? Like, are you going to go draft anybody this year? Are you going to go draft the next special quarterback that you're going to win a Super Bowl with? Or are you going to take on Kirk Cousins, who's going to win you games, who's going to maybe get you to a playoff game? Well, if you win the division, you'll be in a playoff game, and you just call that good enough? Is this like just a pat to the hole, get on with it, string it along, and hope for better in the future? But or why are you not swinging at this draft?
Because I think there's also something to be said for the fact that, hey, we see that we're not in the best division. Why don't we go for the next 4 years, go win 3 division titles and host 3 playoff games minimum? Like there's great value in that in the NFL, I think, for a team that has been almost irrelevant for the last 2 decades. Outside of that 1 year when Matt Ryan was really good, they went to the Super Bowl, obviously blew a massive lead. They've been irrelevant for 20 years outside of that season. So, there's a lot to be said for, hey, they're going to win double-digit games. They're going to host a playoff game probably 3 out of the next 4 years as long as Kirk stays healthy and upright. And they're going to be really interesting. They're going to be fun to watch. There's value in putting out a good winning product, whether that means that you're the 10th best team or the number 1 team, right? Like, there's good value in that.
Fair. I just want to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Texans, I'd put it a B+. Yeah, I think they didn't make any massive moves, and now you might be like, oh, the Stephon Diggs move, that's pretty massive. Yeah, but I think the move just to get Diggs in and of itself is like a B to B+ move, right? Probably a B move.
I think situationally it's more. I think we've seen what happens. What happened when you added Jamar Chase to a Bengals offense with Joe Burrow?
You saw Joe Burrow get a lot better.
You get your quarterback, and I know for a fact C.J. Stroud is that guy in Houston. That's not debatable. That's your quarterback of the future.
Absolutely.
Now you go get him his tier 1 weapon, Stephon Diggs. Please welcome.
Yeah, I do think now. I'm second guessing. Is it an A-? We'll keep it at a B+ for now. But I really commend the effort for taking a big swing. I love that they restructured the Diggs deal so they can get out of it after this year. Right, it's done after this year. If you really love him, cool, you pay him. But he's 32 now. So I would argue you shouldn't pay him a long-term contract at this point in his career. He's been on a steady decline for 2 years now, and he has shown to be a little bit noisy after 3-4 years in the same spot. So I like what they did with the Diggs. Nothing too flashy. I think if they would have added more, I think they need more offensive line depth. Yeah. I think they need more defensive line depth, and we see a lot of games won and lost in the trenches, so I think that's something to look for. But overall, really solid offseason, B+.
Yeah, the deal with Diggs just shows you the reservations that they have about him. If they were completely sold on Stephon Diggs, they would not have made it a 1-year deal, and they would have not totally have structured it to, if this parachute becomes a knapsack, we're getting the hell out of this ASAP.
Doesn't it kind of tell you, though, that they're like, oh, is Houston kind of smartly run now? That's what I think. That's what a smart organization would do, is say, Diva wide receiver, let's make sure that we can get out of that. You're right. Historically, and over the last even 5 years, they've been a mess. But over the last 2, they've been really good.
Fair.
D'Amico Ryan, C.J. Stroud, ton of really good moves last year, like a Dalton Schultz. Got a couple guys on the back end that are good B to B+ players. And now they made another smart decision this year. It's
They show flashes.
They've been good for the last 2 years. Let's see if they can keep building on it. Cowboys, D-. I mean, just atrocious.
Abysmal.
And so, first of all, the lack of activity is sad. But what's even sadder is the reasoning behind the lack of activity is that they are staring down the barrel of a gun that they may have to pay Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and Dak Prescott exorbitant amounts of money that'll take up over 70% of their cap. That's ridiculous. There's a world where you pay Dak $60 million, CeeDee Lamb $30 million, and Micah Parsons $30 million. What's that, $150 million of a $255 million cap?
$120 million if you did that. If you did 60, 30, and 30, that'd be $120 million.
Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Okay, so you're going to pay them 50% of your cap, 3 players.
Yeah, that's insane.
There's a world where that's realistic. And so they're staring down the barrel of this gun, so they can't go out and sign a bunch of players. But then you think, are we 100% sure that we want those 3 guys and we actually want to pay them that type of money? And the reason it's been at D- is because you've heard rumblings that if Micah was out of the building, people would be happy. You got Jerry saying they're all in. Meanwhile, their linebackers all out. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? You have no running back. You just lost Tyron Smith, which, granted, Tyron Smith's on the back end of his career, but it's like, he's been good for you, right? Who do you have to replace him? Tyler Smith, but who's there to replace Tyler Smith? Like, there is a ton of moving parts. There's more questions than answers, and there's more noise. I don't even know then what, but there's too much noise, and we know that noise in the offseason is not good for NFL franchises.
Well, they're a joke of a franchise right now. Somebody that's supposed to be a contender.
I don't know if I'd go joke, but they are not
always in it.
Yes, they're not always in it. That's for sure.
We are watching the Texans, who are in their own damn state, make better decisions than the coveted Dallas Cowboys.
By a long shot.
Like, when the Texans are outperforming you, that's how you know you have a problem.
That's when you got to look in the mirror. Chargers, let's go B-. Now, let's start with all the negatives. Keenan Allen's gone. Mike Williams is gone. Austin Eckler's gone. Corey Linsley, the center you signed a bunch of money to a couple years ago, is like retiring because he can't stay healthy. You have a good left tackle, but other than that, the offensive line is fairly weak. Your defensive line is really weak. You had to let go of a couple guys on the back end. You're decent in your linebacking and especially outside linebacking duo with Mack and Bosa. But it's a team that had to hemorrhage a ton of talent due to, one, Justin Herbert's cap going up because that new contract's kicking in, and 2, because Harbaugh said, you know what, I'm going to kind of redo this team in my eye and kind of fit it to what I want to do. And so for a year, you may see a step down. But so all of that said, you're looking at probably a D plus to a C minus.
Yeah.
But because of how good of a coach Harbaugh is and how good I think they're going to be throughout this draft process and how they're going to get impact players day one, on day one they're going to be impact players day one in the league, but they're going to get them on day 1, day 2, day 3. They're going to find guys all through this draft. I think it's a B minus for the Chargers. I do.
Okay, I 100% agree with that. One, I just love the coaching move. Right, like you had to. Brandon Staley was the limiting reactant in that experiment. Like he was the problem.
Out here.
Yeah, he was the problem. So you replace that, you get somebody that I think is otherworldly smarter, can scheme up way better of an offense, and just a team in general, and just a great
culture
leader.
builder. Yeah, great
leader, culture. Those are the things that you associate with a Jim Harbaugh. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think the Chargers are going to be really good, but I do think this will be one of the takes that you're going to look at for a year and a half and say, it's getting there.
Yeah.
And then I think in 2 years, 2.5 years from now, you're like, that was the right decision.
I still think they're going to be.
They were right all along.
They're going to be competitive this year.
They're going to be competitive,
7-8 wins,
but they're not going to compete for any sort of playoff win. And I don't think that. I think they'll compete for a playoff spot, but I don't think that they win a game.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
And I think next year you make more moves in the offseason. You have another draft under Harbaugh's belt. I mean, he's been there for like 15 minutes. You got to give the guy some time.
That's fair. Let's go with the Bills, the other side of that Texans trade. I'll give it a D+. I mean, they hemorrhaged talent. Diggs is gone. Tre'Davious White's gone. Your safeties are gone. Gabe Davis is gone. So now you're just going to have to go 12 personnel, Kincaid, Dawson Knox, and whoever the hell your receiver is. I mean, I also don't love the Diggs before the draft trade because now everybody knows exactly what you're going to have to draft. So anybody that's behind you that wants a receiver knows that they can jump you and they're going to have to jump you if they want to get that receiver. So now you have a target on your back for the receiver market in the draft. So I don't love that move. I don't love the timing of that move. And it's all because Josh Allen's cap hit's going up. And I've been a Josh Allen guy. I'm not saying that he can't do it. But we're going to see this year if he can actually put a team on his back. We've said he's been a trailer all along. This is where he's going to prove, is he a true trailer? Can he be a real top 5 quarterback with minimal talent around him? We're going to find out.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown flashes of carrying the team. The games where he has 25 rushes along with 60 dropbacks and attempts, right? Like, you see those games from Josh Allen for sure. But one, they're not very successful when that happens, and two, things kind of go off the rails when Josh Allen's asked to do too much. He throws a lot of picks. He fumbles the ball. He just, plain and simple, does not treat the ball well. I think there's a lot of problems in Buffalo. I don't think you can attribute them all to Josh Allen. I think his cap hit going up is going to be extremely detrimental to the entire process.
Well, right. See, now, right now, I do think people are like, oh, that's a 6-win team. I still think they're going to win 9-10 games. Like, I still think they're going to be good. But I don't think that they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I think that window has shut for right now. I don't think that they can legitimately compete with the Chiefs, the Bengals, and maybe even the Texans in the AFC.
Well, I think you also have to have receivers. We just saw the experiment. They literally did it this last year. The Chiefs, although they won a Super Bowl, their receiving all season long was atrocious. And it became quite evident that without true number 1, number 2, and number 3 receivers, without the whole plethora of them all, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is, you're still going to struggle in that area. Patrick Mahomes, just because he's Patrick Mahomes, did not make their receiving core look great.
No, they still won, but that defense was really good. The defense
won it. We're going to see that now with Buffalo and the fact that Josh Allen has nobody to throw to. Okay, Gabe Davis. Okay.
No, he's gone.
Oh, that's right.
He's in Jacksonville. Yeah,
everybody's gone.
Yeah, top 2 receivers gone. Let's go to the Bears. I'd give it a B+. And now I'm also factoring in they're going to get Caleb Williams, but then you get Keenan Allen, you get DeAndre Swift, you re-sign Jalen Johnson, who's a top 5 corner. You go get Shane Waldron as the OC, which I don't think it's a great OC, but he's certainly an upgrade. He's a really strong OC, let's put it that way. I think B+ is fair, and Vegas is telling you exactly what they think. Their over-under is set at 8.5. Justin Fields won 10 games in 3 years. They're telling you right now they think Caleb Williams could possibly win almost as many games as Justin Fields did in 3 years. They're telling you exactly what they think of it.
Yeah. And it's
B+.
Quite upsetting, dude. This team is just never going to get better, it seems like. They are stuck.
You don't
in
think?
Purgatory for it. No, not soon.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. I'm on the other end of that. So, Jets, I'll give it a C+. I think when the bugaboo of your team, when the issue with your team last year was that you had an old aging quarterback behind an offensive line that's not very good, and he gets hurt, and the main issue of your entire season was injuries, I don't think the proper solution is to go out and get a 38-year-old tackle and a 36-year-old tackle, both of who had injury problems in the last couple of years. I don't think that's a legitimate solution. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't view that as a true upgrade over what they have. In a one-game scenario, sure. Over the course of a 17-game season, I don't understand the move. I'm out of word. Mike Williams as well, another injury-plagued player. It's like, I don't think the solution was to go get more injury-plagued players.
No, it's bleak. It's a bleak outlook.
I'll give it a C+ because if by some shred of hope they all stay healthy for 17 weeks, they are good, productive players. But that's a massive if that hasn't happened in like 5 years. So.
Yeah, we've seen no stats from that.
No. Let's go with the Steelers, and this will be a perfect pivot into our discussion about them. I'll give them an A- purely because you went from paying like $10 million to your quarterback room consisting of Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph, and you now pay like 5, so about half of what you did for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think about those quarterbacks, to take a 50% pay cut and get 150% better in the quarterback room is a massive upgrade, and an upgrade of fantastic proportions. That is a financially smart thing to do and a football smart thing to do. And just for that position alone, I give it an A-. I also like getting rid of Deontay Johnson as well.
I love that. It's something to be studied. I mean, people should... It doesn't happen every day where you watch an NFL franchise completely just win on both ends of the spectrum. They didn't have to give up anything. Like, the opportunity cost here is so, like, little. The opportunity cost is... What if Kenny Pickett pops and becomes like some all-pro quarterback? Which, let's be real, that's never going to happen. So, The Steelers are in a much better spot today than they were at the end of the season. They're in a much better spot today than they were at the start of last season. I think overall they made significant upgrades at a lot of very needed positions.
I would agree.
I think getting rid of deadweight like Deontay, I think you can go find any other receiver from the MAC in the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th round of the draft. They can be elusive like Deontay. They can have probably better hands than Deontay. Don't forget how many balls Deontay's dropped. And show actual effort.
I think that's a fair point.
So
That's a fair point. This is actually a perfect pivot to go ahead and get into